In 1818, there was a small band of actors that were traveling the Austrian Alps performing the Christmas story. On December 23rd, they arrived at a town called Obendorf, in a village near Salzburg, where they were to reenact the story of Christ's birth in a small church of St. Nicholas. But unfortunately, the church organ wasn't working and would not be repaired before Christmas. Some say it was because of church mice. I would have called COVID, but who knows? Because the church organ was out of commission, these actors decided to present their Christmas drama in private homes. They presented the Christmas story from the first few chapters of Matthew and Luke in front of a pastor named Joseph Moore. And he was particularly in a meditative mood. That night after the performance, instead of walking straight to his house, he decided that he would take the longer way home. Moore decided to take the longer path that led him up a hill overlooking a small village. From that hilltop, Moore looked down at the peaceful, snow-covered village. Revealing the majestic silence of that wintry night, he gazed down at the glowing Christmas card-esque village. His thoughts about Christmas and the Christmas play that he had just seen reminded him of a poem that he had written years before. The poem was all about the night when the angels announced the birth of a long-awaited Messiah to shepherds on a hillside. Moore decided that these words might actually make a really great carol for his congregation to sing the following evening at their Christmas Eve service. The problem was he didn't have any music or a poem that he could just be sung by any instrument. So the next day, Moore went to see the church organist, Franz Gruber. Now, Gruber only had a few hours to come up with the melody, but it would have to be sung with a guitar. However, by that evening, Gruber had managed to compose a beautiful setting for Moore's poem. It no longer mattered to Moore and Gruber that their church didn't have an organ that was operating. They now had a Christmas carol that could be sung without an organ. On Christmas Eve, the little Obendorf congregation heard Gruber and Moore sing their new composition on Gruber's guitar. Weeks later, a well-known organ builder, Karl Moracher, arrived in Obendorf to fix the organ in St. Nicholas Church. When Moracher finished, he stepped back and let Gruber test the instrument. When Gruber sat down, his fingers began playing the simple melody he had written for Moore's Christmas poem. Deeply impressed, Moracher took copies of the music and words, making the song available for anyone and everyone to sing for years to come. Anybody know what song and carol I've been talking about? 200 years later, on Christmas Eve, people from around the world sing this carol, Silent Night. Have you ever thought about that most likely not so silent night 2,000 years ago? I wonder who all was around the manger, keeping warm in the stable with Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. I mean, the animals, a few sheep and a little lamb and a donkey that Mary rode. Maybe even a little family of mice making beds in the hay. The shepherds came. They came in awe and wonder from keeping their flocks. Maybe the innkeeper and his wife even peeked in when they heard the first cries of baby Jesus. Each year, we would traditionally gather around our church, around our sanctuary, and celebrate that beautiful silent night. This year, we cannot gather in person. 2020 feels like a broken church organ that we keep trying to play, but no music will produce. And yet, this year we will still gather in spirit. Maybe this year you feel like Joseph, excited and yet terrified about the future to come. Maybe you even feel like the tired donkey, cranky after a long-ass season. Maybe you feel like the shepherds, hurrying from work, ready to celebrate the birth of Jesus. Maybe you feel like Mary, the mother of Jesus, who simply was in awe of the present she got to bring to the entire world, the light of the world. I imagine Mary being filled with joy, radiating with the arrival of the Christ child. After 9 long months of pregnancy, the Messiah had finally come. I can even imagine Mary stepping out of the stable, catching her breath, getting some fresh air. Maybe she even looked up into the night sky where thousands and thousands of twinkling stars shined like candles in the heavens. I wonder if she thought deeply while she held that tiny, precious light of God. How that very light would multiply years and years and years after her. How the light of God would radiate out of every generation to come. That God's children, like you and like me, would be the light of God. The light of God on earth, more numerous than the stars in heaven. Tonight, we traditionally gather around the table, like Christ gathered the 12 disciples, the 12 lights that set ablaze the church. But tonight, we gather in our homes, kindling the light in which we have, trusting that others are doing the same. Tonight, I meet you in my home and unite my spirit with you.